My name is Lucas, 34 years old, a factory worker at a mechanical workshop on the outskirts of Dover, New Hampshire. Dover is small, quiet, with snow-covered streets every winter and red brick houses nestled under the canopy of trees. I work in an old mechanical workshop where the roar of lathes fills the air all day. My job is to operate machines, inspect components, and repair screeching machinery that has been running since before I was born. My hands are always smeared with grease, my fingernails perpetually black no matter how hard I scrub. The smell of metal and machine oil clings to me, like an inseparable part of my flesh and blood. I live in a tiny rented apartment on the third floor of an old building at the end of Elm Street, far from Dover's center. The apartment is nothing special, a living room that doubles as a kitchen with a chipped wooden table, a sleeping corner with a creaky bed, and a small window overlooking a road full of passing trucks. The walls are stained. The ceiling sometimes leaks when the snow melts, but I don't complain. This is where I return after a 10-hour shift, where I eat a plate of pasta or a meat sandwich and listen to the radio playing Christmas songs. Snow is falling lightly outside, blanketing the town in white. Winter in New Hampshire is bone-chilling, the cold seeping through my worn-out jacket, sinking into the calloused crevices of my hands. Christmas is coming and Dover is aglow with lights and a large Christmas tree in the town square, but I don't feel the festive spirit. I live simply, frugally, with no grand dreams. The work is grueling, but it pays for rent, food, and a little extra to send to my parents when they need it. I am quiet, used to living alone, used to hiding the tears in my heart. But tonight, sitting by the window watching the snow fall, my heart is restless. This Christmas, the family will gather at my parents' house, as always. I look forward to it, but I'm also afraid of that feeling of being left behind, forgotten, like a faint shadow in my own family. I close my eyes, my breath fogging up the glass. Perhaps I've grown used to being invisible. My parents are simple working-class people. My father used to work at a lumber mill and my mother sewed at a small factory. They retired a few years ago, living in the old house on the outskirts where I grew up. That house is nothing fancy, peeling paint, moss-covered roof tiles, but to my parents, it's their entire world. They scraped by, raising me and my younger brother, always trying to give us a decent life, even if it meant simple meals of potatoes and soup. My father, a man of few words, always lights up when he talks about the old days, when he was young, strong, and drove the whole family in his beat-up 1998 pickup truck. My mother is gentle, but her hands are rough from years hunched over a sewing machine. They aren't rich, but the love they have for me and my brother, I've never doubted it. It's just that, with me, that love always feels like it comes with an invisible distance. My younger brother, Michael, is 3 years my junior. He's the complete opposite of me. If I'm quiet and introspective, Michael is like sunshine, radiant, drawing every eye. He's smart, quick-witted, and has been pampered by our parents since childhood. I remember when we were kids and money was tight. Our parents still managed to buy Michael new shoes for school while I wore my torn ones through another winter. I didn't resent it. I'm the older brother, giving way to my younger sibling is normal. But those moments of giving way over time built a wall between me and my family. Michael was sent to college by our parents while I dropped out in my final year of high school to work as a laborer to help support the family. He graduated full of ambition, dreaming of big projects, but every venture he started failed. One time it was a coffee shop, another time a tech company of some sort. Each time he failed, our parents emptied their savings, even borrowed money to help him get back on his feet. I watched, my heart heavy. It's not that I was jealous, I just wished just once that my parents would look at me with the same trusting eyes. A year ago, my family's life changed forever. My father had a habit of buying lottery tickets every week, a small pastime he'd kept up since I was a child. Every Friday afternoon on his way home from the lumber mill, he'd stop by the convenience store at the corner of Main Street in Dover and buy a New Hampshire Powerball ticket for $2. He'd joke in his low, gravelly voice, "Who knows, Lucas, maybe one day we'll strike it rich." I'd just smile, thinking it was a harmless little game. Who could have imagined that, after more than 20 years, the unthinkable would happen? That night, I was in my apartment, having just finished a plate of pasta when the phone rang. My father's voice on the other end was trembling, a mix of laughter and choked emotion. "Lucas, I won the lottery, $2 million. I froze, my hand gripping the phone tightly. $2 million, a number I'd never dared to dream of. I was happy, genuinely happy, but a small spark of hope flickered in my heart. Maybe this time I'd get a share, maybe my parents would see me, even just once. My parents quickly made plans for the money. They bought a new house on the outskirts of Dover, a much nicer one, worth over $400,000. The house had a spacious yard, large windows, and a red-tiled roof, worlds apart from the old house with its stained walls and leaking ceiling. I visited, standing in front of the house, my heart swelling with both pride and emptiness. It was beautiful, but it wasn't my home. My parents invested some of the money in stocks and put the rest in savings to live comfortably. And as always, they focused most of their attention on Michael, my younger brother. Michael, with his grand dreams and string of failures, was given yet another chance. They gave him hundreds of thousands of dollars to start an electronics import company. I wasn't surprised when, just a few months later, the company went bankrupt. Michael stood before our parents, head bowed, apologizing, but their eyes were still full of trust. "It's okay, you'll try again," my mother said, ruffling his hair as if he were still a child. I stood outside the living room listening, my heart stinging. I wasn't jealous, I just wished just once that my parents would look at me with that same faith. And me? My parents never mentioned sharing anything with me. One time I overheard my mother talking to a neighbor over the fence. "Lucas is fine. He can take care of himself. Michael needs us more." Those words cut like a knife, slicing into the deepest part of my heart. Fine? I'm fine because I have no other choice. I returned to my apartment, went back to my job at the factory, my hands stained with grease, my heart heavy. I told myself I didn't need the money, just a moment of being valued by my parents, a moment where I wasn't invisible. But I stayed silent, as I have for all 34 years of my life. I didn't ask, didn't demand, didn't complain. It's just that every time I thought about the $2 million, the new house, the opportunities handed to Michael, my heart churned. I wondered, in my parents' eyes, am I truly their son? This Christmas, the family gathered at my parents' new house. The festive atmosphere was everywhere, a Christmas tree twinkling with lights, the faint scent of gingerbread cookies in the air, and the sound of jingle bells playing from an old speaker. I sat on the sofa, holding a cup of cold coffee, watching my parents and Michael laughing and chatting animatedly. Outside, snow fell heavily, blanketing the garden in white. I tried to smile, but my heart felt weighed down, as if tethered to a stone. After dinner, my parents called us into the living room, saying they had a special Christmas gift. My father stood up, his eyes gleaming, and handed Michael a thick envelope. "This is a grown-up gift for you," he said, his voice brimming with pride. Michael opened it, his eyes lighting up. The deed to a new house, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, located right in the heart of Dover. "We want you to have a solid foundation," my mother said, embracing him. Michael beamed, thanking them profusely. I sat there, clapping along with everyone else, but my heart felt like it was being crushed. Then my father turned to me, holding out a set of old, worn keys. "Lucas, this is your gift," he said, his voice softening. "My 1998 pickup truck, the one that carried our whole family everywhere. To me, it's worth more than that house." The room fell silent, all eyes on me. I took the keys, cold in my hand, and looked out the window at the old truck parked in the yard, its paint peeling, tires worn, windshield cracked in a long line. I smiled, nodded, but inside a wave of emotion crashed over me. Worth more than the house? My father's words cut like a knife, digging into an old wound. For years I've stepped aside, stayed silent, accepted being invisible. When the family was struggling, I dropped out of school and worked so Michael could go to college. When my parents won the lottery, I received nothing while Michael was given luxuries, money, and business opportunities. And now, this Christmas, Michael gets a house and I get an old truck practically ready for the scrapyard. I looked at my father, his eyes full of expectation, as if he wanted me to be grateful. But all I saw was favoritism, stretching across the 34 years of my life. That night, I returned to my apartment and sat by the window watching the snow fall. The truck keys lay on the table, a silent reminder. I thought back to the years gone by, the times I quietly gave way, the times I heard my mother say, "Lucas is fine," the times I watched Michael being coddled by our parents. I don't want money. I don't want a house. I just want for once to be seen by my parents the way they see Michael. But perhaps that's too much to ask. I sat in quiet reflection by the window, my breath fogging up the glass. Outside, Dover was blanketed in snow, shimmering with Christmas lights. But in my heart, there was only a cold, empty void, one that no amount of warmth could fill. I remember the days when I was a child, when our family lived in the old, run-down house on the outskirts of Dover. The house was cramped, its walls stained, and in winter it was so cold that our breath formed mist in the bedroom. My parents worked tirelessly, my father at the lumber mill, my mother at the sewing factory. Money was always tight, and meals were often just boiled potatoes and watery soup. But despite the hardships, my parents always gave the best to Michael. Once when I was 12, my shoes were torn, water seeping into my feet every time I walked to school through the snowy streets. I asked my mother for a new pair, but she shook her head. "Make do, Lucas. We're short on money." The next week, she brought home a shiny pair of sneakers for Michael, saying he needed good shoes to play basketball at school. I looked at those shoes, my heart stinging, but I just nodded and kept patching my old ones with duct tape. Then there was the time Michael wanted to take piano lessons, and my parents borrowed money to pay for them, even though we couldn't afford to fix the leaking roof. When Michael wanted to go camping with his school, they scraped together every penny of their savings to make sure he had all the gear he needed. And me? I learned to stay silent, to fend for myself, to stop asking. Once I wanted to join the soccer team, but my father said, "You're old enough, Lucas. Earn the money yourself for soccer cleats." I thought that when the family was poor, my parents had to prioritize, and I accepted being the one to sacrifice. But when my father won the $2 million lottery, nothing changed. I had hoped, naively hoped, that the money would bridge the gap between me and my family. I thought my parents would see the years I quietly devoted to them, the days I worked myself to exhaustion to ease their burdens. But no, they bought a new house, invested in stocks, saved some money, and poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into Michael's business ventures. Michael failed again and again, but my parents still believed in him, still gave him chances. "Michael has big dreams," my father said, his eyes shining. "And me?" I only heard my mother say, "Lucas is fine, he can take care of himself." One memory stands out vividly, my birthday last year, a few months after my father won the lottery. I didn't expect anything grand, just a warm family dinner together. But that day, Michael called saying his company was in trouble. My parents rushed off to help him, leaving me with a small cake and a hasty apology. "Lucas, please understand, Michael needs us right now." I sat in their new house, blowing out the candles alone, my vision blurring. I didn't cry. I've long since learned to hide my tears. But that night I asked myself, in my parents' eyes, am I really their son or just a passerby, always standing on my own so they don't have to worry? This favoritism has persisted from the days of poverty to the days of wealth. When we were poor, Michael got new shoes, piano lessons, a college education. When we were rich, Michael got a house, money, opportunities. And me, whether poor or rich, I remained invisible. The old truck my father gave me this Christmas was the final straw. He said it was precious, but to me it's a symbol of the injustice that has stretched across 34 years of my life. I looked at the keys on the table, my heart heavy. I don't want money, I don't want a house. I just want for once to be seen by my parents the way they see Michael, with eyes full of trust and love. But perhaps that's too much to ask. Outside, the snow keeps falling, blanketing Dover in white. I close my eyes, the memories fading, leaving behind a cold, empty void. I tell myself I'm used to living alone, used to being invisible, but deep down, I still long for the day when my parents truly see me. A few days after Christmas, I left the old 1998 pickup truck my father gave me parked in front of my apartment building. It sat there under a thick layer of snow, like a reminder of the wounds in my heart that hadn't yet healed. I didn't want to touch it. Every time I looked at it, I saw my father's eyes, heard his voice saying, "It's worth more than that house." But by the weekend, the snow stopped falling and I decided to clean the truck. After all, it was mine now and I didn't want it rotting away on Elm Street. I put on my jacket, grabbed a bucket and a rag and headed outside. The truck was a relic, peeling paint, a long crack running across the windshield. I opened the door and the smell of old leather and dust hit me. The seats were torn in places, the dashboard coated in grime. I started cleaning, pulling out all sorts of odds and ends, a faded baseball cap, a few loose coins, and a pile of old papers stuffed in the glove compartment. I was about to toss them out, but curiosity got the better of me, so I took a look. They were gas receipts, repair invoices, and a stack of old crumpled lottery tickets mixed in with the papers. I frowned. My father was still buying lottery tickets even after winning $2 million. Maybe it was a habit he couldn't break, or just a way to hold on to a small spark of joy. I shook my head, thinking to myself, no way you'd win twice. I brought the stack of tickets into my apartment and spread them out on the kitchen table. Most were New Hampshire Powerball tickets, bought anywhere from a few months to a few years ago, all either expired or worthless. I checked each one, over 30 tickets, using an app on my phone just to pass the time. No surprises there, they were all duds. Until the last one. That ticket was different, not crumpled like the others, as if it had been carefully tucked away. The purchase date was 4 months ago, still within the redemption period. I scanned the code with the app, not expecting anything. But when the phone screen lit up, my heart stopped. "Congratulations, you've won the $5 million jackpot." I stared, my breath catching in my throat. $5 million. I checked again, manually entering the numbers on the New Hampshire lottery website. Every single number matched the jackpot results perfectly. The ticket, unsigned and pristine, was in my hands. I sank into a chair, my mind reeling. Was this real? A lottery ticket forgotten in the old truck my father gave me, worth $5 million? I laughed, but tears welled up. For years I'd lived quietly, accepting my role as the invisible one, enduring the unfairness. Now, in the most unexpected moment, fate had handed me a life-changing opportunity. I held the ticket, my hands trembling, and signed my name, Lucas Thompson, on it. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I knew from this moment on everything would be different. The next day, I drove to the New Hampshire lottery office in Concord, an hour from Dover. I wore my old jacket and a baseball cap, trying to stay calm, but my heart was pounding. The lottery ticket was in my coat pocket, carefully sealed in a Ziploc bag. At the counter, the staff checked the ticket, their eyes lighting up as they confirmed, "Congratulations, you've won the $5 million jackpot." They led me to a private room and explained the claim process. I chose to take the lump sum, which after taxes came to about $3 million, a sum large enough to change my entire life. But what I didn't expect was the media attention. The New Hampshire lottery wanted to publicize my story, a factory worker who received an old truck as a Christmas gift and stumbled upon a jackpot-winning ticket. I agreed, not because I craved fame, but because I wanted the world to know I wasn't invisible. A week later, I appeared on local television, standing in front of the cameras, recounting the story. I was just cleaning the truck, found the ticket, and my life changed, I said, forcing a smile. The reporter asked about the truck, about my father, but I kept my answers brief. It was a gift from my dad. I didn't expect it to be this valuable. The news spread quickly. The local paper ran a headline, "Dover worker hits jackpot with ticket found in old truck." The interview video was shared across social media. I became the talk of Dover. from the coffee shop on Main Street to the mechanical workshop where I worked. Colleagues patted me on the back, offering congratulations, but I just nodded, my feelings a tangled mix. I wasn't used to the spotlight, wasn't used to being noticed, but deep down I felt a sliver of relief. For the first time I was seen. Then my family found out. One evening, as I sat in my apartment, my phone rang incessantly. It was my mother. "Lucas, is it true you won the lottery, $5 million? Her voice trembled, laced with shock and something I couldn't quite name. I replied, "Yes, it's true. I found the ticket in the truck Dad gave me." She fell silent, then said, "Your father wants to see you. We all need to talk." The next day, I went to my parents' new house. They were sitting in the living room, Michael leaning against the wall, his face tense. My father spoke first, his voice low but sharp. "Lucas, that ticket belongs to me. I bought it, left it in the truck. You need to give it back, or at least share most of it with the family." My mother nodded, her eyes full of hope. "We're family, Lucas. You can't keep it all." I looked at them, my heart turning cold. For years I'd stayed silent, stepped aside, accepted being invisible. They gave Michael a house, money, opportunities, while I got an old truck and empty words. Now, when I had a chance to change my life, they wanted to take it away. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. "The truck is mine, Dad. You gave it to me. The ticket was in it with no name on it. If you said the truck was worth more than a house, well, now it truly is." My father froze, his face reddening. My mother burst into tears, repeating, "We're family, Lucas." Michael stepped forward, his voice sharp. "You can't be this selfish, Lucas. That money belongs to all of us." I looked at them, each one, and for the first time I didn't lower my head. "All of us?" I said, my voice catching. "This family has never seen me. Don't expect me to share what I found." I left the house without looking back. On television, my story continued to air, replayed over and over. My family watched, and I know they were stunned. My parents, Michael, even the neighbors who once heard my mother say, "Lucas is fine," now saw me, the grease-stained worker, standing in the spotlight, holding $5 million in my hands. I didn't boast, didn't gloat, but I knew one thing. This time, they could no longer see me as invisible. 2 years have passed since I won the $5 million lottery. I'm no longer the grease-stained Lucas working 10-hour shifts at the mechanical workshop. With the after-tax money, I invested carefully. I bought a small but cozy house on the outskirts of Dover, set up a savings fund, and put money into a few small business ventures, mainly an auto repair shop. I learned from my years of hardship, not to spend recklessly, not to chase unrealistic dreams. My life is stable, not extravagant, but fulfilling. I still live quietly, steering clear of the media spotlight, keeping only a few close friends from the old workshop days. But my family, they took a different path. After the day I refused to share the lottery winnings, my parents and Michael stopped talking to me. I heard about them through neighbors, through stories that circulated in Dover. The $2 million from my father's lottery win gradually dwindled. My parents lived more lavishly, buying expensive furniture, traveling abroad, throwing extravagant parties to show off to friends. Michael, as usual, pursued impractical business ventures. He started a tech startup, borrowing money left and right, but within months it went bankrupt. My parents bailed him out again, even mortgaging their new house to pay off his debts. I learned about this one afternoon when my mother called. Her voice was frail, lacking the confidence it once had. "Lucas, we're in trouble. The house. The bank is about to foreclose. Michael needs money to pay off debts. Can you help us?" I stayed silent, looking out the window of my house where sunlight fell on the small pine tree I'd planted in the yard. My heart was a mix of anger, sadness, but also an inability to turn my back. After all, they were still my parents. I agreed to pay off the mortgage, saving the house for them. I didn't do it for their gratitude, but because I didn't want to see them homeless. But I made it clear. This is the last time I'll help. You need to manage your money more carefully. My mother cried, made promises, but I knew deep down nothing would change. I was right. Just a year later, the family went bankrupt again. My parents continued their lavish spending, buying a new car, designer clothes, throwing parties. Michael, learning nothing from his failures, borrowed more money to start another project, this time a tech app. It failed, dragging them into massive debt. The new house, which I had paid to save, was mortgaged again. This time, the bank foreclosed. My parents moved back to the old house with its stained walls and leaking roof, the place where I grew up. Michael, out of money, took a part-time job at a convenience store. They came to see me one more time, on a snowy evening. My father, mother, and Michael stood at my doorstep looking more worn than ever. My father spoke first, his voice hoarse. "Lucas, we were wrong. Can you help us one more time?" My mother bowed her head, tears streaming down her face. Michael said nothing, just stared at the ground. I stood there looking at them, the people who once saw me as invisible, who demanded I share the money I found. My heart was heavy, but I shook my head. "I helped once," I said, my voice calm. "You chose your way of life, chose to prioritize Michael, chose to spend without thinking of tomorrow. I can't keep fixing your mistakes." My mother sobbed. My father held her hand and Michael turned away. They left my house, their figures fading into the white snow. I closed the door, sat on the sofa, my heart empty. I didn't gloat, didn't feel joy, only a deep sadness. They were my family, but I couldn't keep being the one to sacrifice. Time passed and my life grew brighter. I married Sarah, an elementary school teacher in Dover who always makes me laugh with stories about her students. We have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, well-behaved, healthy, and always filling our small house with energy. Every evening I sit with Sarah, watching the kids play, my heart full of a peace I'd never known before. I'm not rich like a billionaire, but I have a family, a home, and that's all I need. I still live quietly, not boasting about the lottery money or my changed life. Sometimes I drive by the old workshop, remembering the days of grease-stained hands, the long night shifts. I have no regrets. Those days taught me how to stand strong, how to cherish what I have. My family, my parents, and Michael no longer contact me. I hear they're struggling, my parents taking odd jobs to get by, Michael still grappling with unfulfilled dreams. Once I ran into my mother at the supermarket on Main Street. She had aged so much, her hair white, her eyes cloudy. She looked at me, her gaze a mix of regret and distance. "Lucas, are you doing okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. I nodded, smiled. "I'm fine, Mom." I wanted to say something, to ask about my father, about Michael, but the words stuck in my throat. I turned away, leaving her standing there among the crowded shelves. I know my parents have learned a bitter lesson. They've realized that fairness isn't just about material things, but about sincere, impartial treatment. They favored Michael, overlooked me, and now they've lost not only their money, but also my trust and affection. I don't hold a grudge, I've learned to let go. But I don't go back either. I have my own family now, my children who need me. Sarah, who's always by my side. That's my world now. Every winter when snow blankets Dover, I sit by the window watching the Christmas lights twinkle. I think of the old truck, the life-changing lottery ticket, the days when I was invisible. But I no longer hurt. I've found my place, not in my parents' eyes, but in the hearts of those I love. And that, to me, is the lesson of a lifetime. Not about money, but about how to live, how to cherish, and how to love meaningfully.